$500 worth of seeds that are all garbage. This is what I like to call a total disaster, and I want to teach you guys how to avoid it. If you don't know who I am, hi, hello. My name's Ashley. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Soil Science, and I like to take said science and apply it to all things plants. And in today's case, seeds. But here's the catch. This isn't just seeds I forgot in the back of a closet. Well, that has happened in the past. These are ones that I was misled to purchase, if you will. It didn't feel like a $500 purchase. No. It felt like $12 here, $18 there, $40 on rare tomato seeds, $50 on super hot, exotically specially bred peppers, adding up to $500 over time. Let's talk about germination. Seeds don't germinate for three main reasons. Number one is age. Older seeds have a lower germination rate, and all seeds have a different span in which they germinate. And this span can also be altered depending on how the seed is manufactured, if you will, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. We've also got storage conditions. Humidity and temperature can kill seeds faster than you think. The cold can kill them and the heat can kill them, along with not enough moisture and too much moisture. Quality and reputation of brands. Now, there are a lot of seed companies out there, and not all of them do germination tests and give you percentages. Not all of them date, and not all of them have true to description species, if you will. So seed viability decreases, obviously, under those factors, but the reason for that comes down to a little bit of science. Seed respiration actually damages the cellular membrane over time, meaning seeds need to breathe, but that breathing process, if you will, slowly deteriorates the seed inside. Poor storage, particularly when we're talking temperatures and humidities, actually accelerates lipid oxidation. So if you have seeds that you're not entirely sure if they're viable still, there are some things to look at. First off, I want you to look at whether or not they're pelleted or if they've been placed into some sort of strip, if you will, with equal spacing, that sort of thing. Anything that where the seed has been manipulated, and particularly pelletized. Pelletized seeds do not last any more than one single year. The pellet that they're in is just very simply clay, and they're meant for those machines that roll across the surface of the earth, but they also are great for manually planting, just because you can see them a lot easier than just seeds in dirt. But you need to use them up within that first year. Now, anything outside of that, you're going to want to do a germination test. This is actually very easy to do. And it's something that plant scientists and agronomists do all the time. And it's actually also what reputable seed companies do when they put the percentage of germination on the seed packets prior to putting them into the bag. Now, here's what you want to do. It's always using approximately 10 seeds. We want to make sure it's an even calculable number. You're going to put those into some paper towel, and you're going to put them in a Ziploc bag. You can put them on a heat mat if it applies, or you can just leave them at room temperature, whatever the case may be. Then you're going to want to look inside that bag after the allotted time for germination. You're going to count the number of seeds that germinate. If only 3 germinate, it's a 30% germination rate, and therefore, if you want 6 plants, you need to plant 20 seeds in order to get that. Conversely, if it's 9 plants that germinate, you have a 90% germination rate, which, by the way, that's typically where seeds should be landing at if you're buying from a reputable company. And therefore, if you want 6 seeds, you can plant 10 and get 9, or you can pull back and do, say, 8, for example. The times in which you would want to do this would include time-sensitive plants where you have a limited window to get the ball rolling, or with seeds that you're a little bit unsure of. Maybe they're ones you personally saved, ones you got in a seed exchange, maybe from a seed library, that sort of thing. These are all great examples of seeds that you would want to do this with. You wouldn't so much have to do it with the ones that have it stamped onto the bag. Particularly if you're in Canada, I can't speak for the US, but in Canada, Agriculture, Agri-Foods Canada, if you put that germination stamp on your freaking seed pack with a lot number, you better believe it. Ultra Agri-Foods Canada is going to hold you to it. So you aren't allowed to lie on that thing. So yeah, fun facts. Next up is the whole true to type thing. Okay, so when it comes to getting plants that are true to type, there's a lot that goes into it. True to type seeds have to be in a controlled pollination setting, meaning the flowers are covered with bags to ensure pollinators can't get to them. They're in isolation distances for anything that could possibly cross-pollinate with it, and it also has proper rouging. Here's the thing with that. It is very expensive to do, and therefore a lot of companies and people will push for things like open pollinated, which by the way could never be true to type unless of course it is a enclosed flower with both male and female organs in it, such as a tomato, for example, or a pepper plant. But things like squash and that, if it is open pollinated, there's a very real possibility you are going to get some that is not true to type. And that just comes from the fact that there's a lot of other DNA mixed into it. We're talking P. Diddy parties in the squash world. And the reason I say that is because the mix-in of other genetics could hypothetically result in longer days to harvest, different growth patterns, different results. And if you're a new gardener, that can be a little bit concerning. And if you're an expert gardener, it could just piss you off. So just keep that in mind when you're choosing. Look for that label. Next one is actually purchasing the wrong seeds for my system. So here's what I mean by that. You can buy long season varieties in a cold climate. I literally just saw them at Walmart the other day. And so because of that, you oftentimes will plant things like giant Atlantic pumpkin only to get absolutely nothing from it because it needs like 120 days to harvest. If you're gardening in only containers and you get a field variety, then you don't have enough room. Enough gas in the tank to make that happen. This oftentimes will happen with things like cucumbers. You can get patio varieties, and then you can get ones that are absolutely monstrosities that need a lot of real estate to get the job done. You've also got, for example, long day versus short day onions. If you grab the wrong day length onion, it's not going to work in your climate. Now, one thing I do find on a lot of seed packets that fall into this category that isn't actually listed on the packet is things like soil volume required, nutrient requirements, the root architecture. Sounds weird, but say you got a really big, long taproot and you're growing in a container or a raised bed that's on top of a cement platform. It's not going to grow very well. So before you cuss yourself out saying, I watered wrong, I planted wrong, I did something wrong, take a look at the original seed packet itself and do a little bit of research on the entire anatomy of the plant to see if you missed something in that regard. And this is particularly true if you look at your system and you determine that, for example, you have a raised bed on top of a concrete platform and said raised bed is only about 2 feet high. Good reason for things to fail. My rule of thumb every single year when it comes to some of these more exotic plants that are cool to grow but difficult to give the right conditions to is to only go for 1 to 2 special crops, if you will, a year. Not any more than that, because it's just going to cause you a whole lot of stress. Not to mention, these crops that are exotic and cool generally are also more expensive. So again, a good reason only to go for onesie twosies, particularly when we're talking like potential infrastructure that needs to be invested in, like containers with self-watering containers on wheels with a cage included on top of it from Vigo for a lot of money, as an example. That I saw someone do it once. I won't say who. All for a loofah. All for a loofah. But hey, it worked, finally, after a while. You have to let me know in the comments down below where you've been burnt in regards to seeds. Was it a certain supplier? Was it a certain variety? Was it your own seed-saving techniques and then you didn't do a germination test? I'd be interested to know what has happened to you in the past. And I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.